is a replica of his previous crappy movie.
Right. That's fair. Well, I, for one, think this movie featuring 1990s computer imagery of helixy shapes squiggling around is far superior to James Nguyen's other wretched films.
Yeah, I think there might be other things in this movie soon.
Well, like what?
People. See on screen, see the names there?
Ooh, so those are like actors?
Yeah.
They're going to be saying lines?
Yep.
Lines written by James Nguyen?
You got it.
Actors trying to walk around while being filmed, saying lines written by James Nguyen, trying to walk, trying to talk, trying to drive even as we watch.
Good morning, mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Microphone check. Mic check to home base. Check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Thank you. Mic check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2.
Good test.
Check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2.
Good test.
Backup mic check 1 2 3.
Good test.
Mic check 1 2. Captions check 1 2 3. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here shortly. As a kind reminder for those that are in the room, if you are walking up to the podium to speak or up to your table, please make sure that the light is on. You can push the button and the light will be on. Please make sure that you are within a speaking distance of the microphone so we can hear you loudly and clearly. And before you leave the table or microphone, please make sure to turn the microphone off by pushing the button, as I'm about to do right now.
Good morning and howdy, and welcome to the January 16th, 2025 meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It is 9:31 a.m. I'm right on time, Mary. It's amazing. I am joined by my colleagues, Bobby Janecka and Katarina Gonzalez, our General Counsel, Mary Smith, and our Public Interest Counsel, Garrett Arthur. For each item that argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform parties and the public of time limits for their discussion. Registration closed at 9:30 a.m., but if you'd like to address the commission on a particular item, please either visit our registration table if you are here in person, or if you are on the webinar and the interwebs, please email our agenda.tceq.texas.gov with your name, affiliation, and the item that you would like to comment on. We will do our absolute best to accommodate that request. For those making presentations, please wait to begin your presentation until I've asked you to begin speaking, and please check to make sure that your line is unmuted before proceeding. Just a quick note, I am the new chairwoman. I'm very happy to be here. Quick note on me, I grew up in Plano, Texas. I am one of 5. I have 3 brothers, which meant there was never enough food at the dinner table at times because they were always hungry. Went to Texas A&M, class of 01, so whoop. Texas Tech Law, class of 05, and I have worked for the governor in one role or the other for almost 20 years. It's been quite a ride, and I'm very excited to be at TCEQ. I have 2 kids. I have a teenager named Henry, who is hot mess express most of the time, and a daughter named Heidi, who is 10, who woke up this morning at 6 o'clock for a skincare routine. So you know what I'm dealing with right now. So going regulatory didn't feel like that heavy of a lift when you're the mother of dragons now. So very happy to be here. My motivation for my job and for my role and for this mission are my kids and your grandkids. I want them to inherit a healthy and prosperous Texas, and that is what we are here to do. So with that, let's do some good for the great state of Texas. Ms. Smith, please call the first item.
Item number 1 is the consideration of the motions to overturn the executive director's issuance of air quality standard permit registration number 174419 to Jewel Pit Incorporated. The movants will speak first, followed by the applicant, the ED, and OPIC in that order. Movants will have 8 minutes of oral argument time collectively. Applicant will have 8 minutes, and the ED and OPIC will have 5 minutes each. The movants may save time for rebuttal as they bear the burden of proof. And with that, we'll call up the movants to the podium, and I believe we have Mr. Ernest Wotring for the movants. All right. And if you could make sure the little green light on it.
Yes, it's on.
And I believe we actually have our county attorney from Fort Bend County here.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Good morning, TCEQ commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be present this morning to present our arguments on Fort Bend County's motion to overturn the executive director's approval of the permit for the Jewel Pit concrete crusher plant. I am Bridget Smith Lawson, Fort Bend County attorney. My office initiated this action to challenge this permit based on what we believe to be procedural failures of Jewel Pit in complying with the permit process, as well as the health concerns that may result as a result of the concrete crusher plant being so close in proximity to our residents. On behalf of the impacted residents of Fort Bend County, as well as the elected commissioners of our county who have given across the aisle support to pursue this action, we are present this morning to say that we are in opposition to the approval of the permit and would ask for the reconsideration of the same. Opposition is probably an understatement. I will now invite Ernest Wotring, outside counsel for Fort Bend County, to present the arguments in depth and in brevity, considering the limited time that we have. Mr. Wotring.
Thank you very much and good morning. If I could, I'd like to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal. Let me extend my thanks for the opportunity to address the commissioners here today. The decision to issue permits like this one for facilities that can have adverse health consequences for our communities is an important issue for the people of Fort Bend County and Texas as a whole. We have tremendous respect for the hard work by the TCQED and the staff and officials there. We've had the privilege of working with them over the years, and I look forward to working with them in the future. But for the reasons set forth in our motion and our reply brief, we are requesting that the decision on this permit be overturned. Jewel Pit has failed to meet the 440-yard distance limit found in section 382.065 of the Texas Health and Safety Code. In its application materials, we were able to locate only a single coordinate to locate the facility that is in an area in which there are nearby residences, and it provided a simple outline drawn with the assistance of apparently Google Earth or some other similar program. We have no specific dimensions for this facility because the applicant has chosen not to provide us with that information. Jewel Pit does state that the facility will have a feed hopper, a grizzly screen, a primary crusher, a secondary screen, and other equipment, as well as engines and generator sets, but it provides no information about where those and the other fixtures associated with this facility will be located in relation to each other, and more importantly, in relation to the coordinate provided or the nearby residences. Jewel Pit has not provided a survey, a map, or a plot to substantiate this important requirement on the 440-yard setback for our public review or our comment. It appears from our review of the ED's response to comments that the applicant has provided information to the ED after the notice of the public meeting went out in March 28th of 2024. The ED states in its response to comments that Jewel Pit provided updated maps on May 10th, 2024. We've been unable to locate those maps in the materials that we've been looking for online. Notably, the applicant has said nothing in response to the motions to overturn, to inform or illuminate the situation, to provide us with additional information. Fort Bend has drawn its own maps based upon the sketchy outline that the applicant provided. And our maps demonstrate that the nearest residence may very well be located within the 440-yard requirement. It is our view that this matter is sufficiently similar to the TCEQ's review of standard permit number 175198, North Texas Natural Selection Materials, in which the commission overturned ED's decision to allow the public the fair opportunity to comment on the revised representations about the location of the facility and to provide informed comments on that particular issue. And that's what we're requesting the commission do with this permit. According to the TCEQ's guidance on these types of permits, the ED must decide whether to approve or deny the application for the standard permit based on whether the application itself meets the requirements of the standard permit, and this permit does not do so. For that reason, we request that the ED's decision to grant the permit be overturned and that it be required to provide sufficient information to establish that the 440-yard distance requirement has been met. We've raised some other issues in our briefing having to do with what exact entity applied for the permit, what exact entity received the permit. We think that is unclear. And finally, we've raised numerous concerns about the potential health effects for these types of permits. We understand what stage of the proceeding we are in, and we're not the only one to raise concerns about rock crushing, concrete crushing permits. And given these concerns, we think it is all the more important that the existing requirements for these permits be enforced strictly, and that it is not too burdensome to ask the applicant to provide sufficient information at the beginning of the permitting process for the public so that it can demonstrate that it has met the 440-yard distance requirement. That did not happen here.
That's 6 minutes.
And that is why the ED's decision to grant this application should be overturned.
We will move on to the applicant, and I believe we have Mr. Sarahan here.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel. I'm Paul Sarahan with Earth and Water Law on behalf of Jewel Pit, Inc. The movements have raised a number of issues that are either not within the Commission's jurisdiction or are related to the standard permit itself. Jewel Pit notes OPIC concludes that none of the objections to the standard permit is sufficient to merit granting the motion to overturn, and Jewel Pit defers to OPIC's and the executive director's positions with respect to these issues. I will address two issues specific to Jewel Pit's application. One, the name of the applicant, and two, the location of the plant emission point in relation to the nearest residence. First, the name of the applicant. The application was originally filed with references to both Jewel Pit Inc. and Jewel Pit LLC. On October 27th, 2023, Mr. Piper of the executive director's staff noted inconsistency and asked Jewel Pit to revise its application to correct the company name. Jewel Pit Inc. did so on November 10th, 2023. In addition, the initial notice of application referenced Jewel Pit LLC rather than Jewel Pit Inc., and an amended notice was provided on March 4th, 2024 to reflect Jewel Pit Inc. This amended notice was provided more than 5 months before the public meeting held in this matter on August 20th, 2024. The most up-to-date information with respect to location and everything else required in the application was provided and made available at the public meeting. The application was available for viewing and copying at the TCEQ Central Office and the TCEQ Houston Regional Office. The public comment period was extended for an additional 5 weeks after the public meeting and closed on September 26, 2024. The public has had adequate notice and opportunity to comment. The executive director issued the permit to Jewel Pit Inc. on October 25th, 2024. Fort Bend's argument seems to center, at least in large part, on whether there is a comma between Jewel Pit and Inc. The application was submitted on behalf of Jewel Pit, Inc. The information available on TCEQ's Central Registry shows Jewel Pit, Inc. is the holder of the permit. The Secretary of State information regarding the company is consistent with the information provided on the Central Registry core data form. There is no ambiguity as to the entity that has been issued the permit. Move-in's motion to overturn on this issue should be denied. Second, with respect to the location, the motion should also be denied because there is no residence within 440 yards of the emission points authorized under this permit. Fort Bend appears to confuse the location of the plant and its boundaries with the location of the plant's emission points, also known in TCEQ's permitting vocabulary as facilities. The question before the Commission today is whether a Jewel Pit emission point or facility is within 440 yards of a residence. Jewel Pit's application, TCEQ's regional investigation, and Fort Bend's own pleadings demonstrate that there is not. As noted in the executive director's response, Jewel Pit was required to do three things: represent its emission point sources, label those point sources on a plot map, and include emission calculations. Jewel Pit did all three things. Jewel Pit also provided the coordinates representing the emission point or facility that is nearest to a residence, school, or place of worship, and used GPS to determine the distance to the nearest residence. There are no residences within 440 yards of that emission point. As I mentioned previously, the most up-to-date information was made available at the public meeting. The application was available throughout the comment period, and the public had adequate notice with respect to these location issues. In addition to Jewel Pit's representation that there are no residences within 440 yards, TCEQ regional staff have investigated the issue twice and confirmed that fact. Further, Fort Bend's own motion and reply includes exhibits that confirm this fact. Fort Bend's Exhibit A to its motion to overturn confirms that there are no residences within 440 yards of the nearest emission point or facility. If this were not the case, at least one of Fort Bend's yellow circles reflected on Exhibit A would encompass that emission point. None do. The same information is provided in Exhibit F of Fort Bend's reply. Again, if there were any residents within 440 yards of the nearest emission point or facility, at least one of Fort Bend's light blue circles reflected on Exhibit F would encompass that emission point. None do. In fact, none even encompasses any portion of the plant's boundaries. As a result of Fort Bend's own presentation, it is not possible for any of the residences to be within 440 yards of the nearest emission point or facility. Jewel Pit respectfully requests that the commission deny the motions to overturn. I'm available for any questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, next we'll hear from the ED.
Good morning, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Catherine Keithley with the Environmental Law Division, representing the Executive Director. With me are Ava Enriquez and Samuel Short from the Air Permits Division. For the reasons discussed here and in the Executive Director's response brief, the Commission should deny the motions to overturn the Executive Director's decision to issue Jewel Pit Inc.'s Air Quality Permit number 174419. The Executive Director properly reviewed the permit application and determined that it met all applicable state and federal rules and regulations. Jewel Pit Inc. followed all setback requirements of the Air Quality Standard Permit for permanent rock and concrete crushers. The applicant's permit materials accurately represent the nearest point on the crushing facility that is nearest to the closest residence, school, or place of worship. Based on the applicant's representations, the additional residences highlighted by Fort Bend County are further away from the proposed facility than the residents detailed in the application. Further, on June 5th, 2024, the permit reviewer requested that TCQ investigators conduct a site visit. In the request for comments form for the June 26, 2024 visit, TCQ investigators recorded that the distance to the nearest off-property receptor is approximately 1,900 feet. Move-ins argue that the ED erred in issuing the permit because the public was not made aware of the applicant's updated representations. The application for this standard permit registration was made available at the TCQ Houston Regional Office and the TCQ Central Office during business hours, as stated in the published public notice, and followed their standard permits requirements. When representations in the application are updated, those updates may be found at either of these aforementioned locations. The applicant updated representations on May 9th, 2024. The comment period for this application was open from March 27, 2024 to September 26, 2024. Further, the Executive Director accurately tracked the correct entity because the customer number has consistently tracked the proper Texas Secretary of State registration for Jewel Pit Inc. The Texas Secretary of State filing number listed in the application for permit number 174419 has consistently matched the Texas Secretary of State filing number associated with Jewel Pit Inc. The final decision letter, all associated notices, and RTC for this permit use the correct customer number. Based on these arguments and those noted in the Executive Director's response brief, the Executive Director again asks that the Commissioners deny all motions to overturn the Executive Director's decision to issue Jewel Pit Inc.'s permit number 174419. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from OPIC.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director. My name is Elon Martinez, and I'm with the Office of Public Interest Counsel for the record. We've reviewed the motion to overturn and reply filed by the movement in this matter, and consistent with our briefing, we find that a notice defect does exist in the process of this standard permit authorization because it relied upon updated information submitted by the applicant concerning the location of the facility was not made available to the public. Meaningful public participation requires that the public have notice of changes to the application and its representations access to that information and a reasonable period of time to review the information so a concerned citizen may avail themselves of agency procedures and challenge where necessary whether the application properly adheres to the rules and regulations applicable to the permit sought. OPIC was unable to determine how the setback requirements of Texas Health and Safety Code 382.065 and General Requirement 1B of the standard permit would be met by the application. The application materials are unclear as to the components and configuration of the proposed facility, do not contain clear information orienting the reader precisely where the nearest receptor is located in relation to facility equipment, and there does not appear to be any supporting information as to how measurements were taken after the updated information was provided by the applicant. OPIC also agrees with the movement that the authorization should be overturned to correct any inaccuracies in the applicant's name and thereby ensure public access to correct records, protect the integrity of our internal databases, and maintain the accuracy of our compliance records. As further stated in our briefing, OPIC cannot find that the executive director erred in her disposition of the remaining issues raised in the motion. However, based upon the issues of notice and correct identification of the authorized entity, we support overturn of the authorization before the commission and recommend that the motion be granted. Thank you. We're available for any questions.
Okay, and we'll hear from the move-in again, the rebuttal. Mr. Wottring.
Briefly stated, Section 382.065 requires that the measurement of distance for purposes of this subsection shall be taken from the point on the concrete crushing facility that is nearest to the residence school or place of worship toward the point on the residence school or place of worship that is nearest the concrete crushing facility. The record in front of this commission is insufficient to establish that those distances can be determined based upon the single coordinate that the applicant provided. The maps that Fort Bend provided in its motion to overturn and that it provided in the reply brief establish that the facilities, the numerous facilities that go along with the rock crushing, concrete crushing facility will have to be spread out all across that orange rectangle, and that they may very well be within the 440 yards. Considering the numerous specific health concerns that have been raised about these types of permits, it is Fort Bend's position that this 440-yard setback requirement should be enforced, and this applicant has simply failed to provide the ED and its staff with sufficient information to establish that it has been met. We requested this permit be overturned.
Well, thank you all for your discussion. Colleagues, I'm having difficulty discerning the location of the outer bounds of the facility in relation to the neighboring residents from the application. From my review of the application's maps, it appears that the measurements were taken from the center of the facility rather than the outer edge. And I can't tell whether equipment, if placed on the outer edge, would be more than 440 yards from the neighboring residents. Therefore, I think Fort Bend County has raised an issue that merits further review as to whether the facility's location meets statutory requirements. I would overturn this authorization and propose that we remand it to the executive director to permit the applicant to provide additional support for the proposed location and to allow the executive director to further review compliance with the setback requirement. I would also suggest that the ED ensure that the legal name of the applicant is correct and would allow public additional time to comment. Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Ginecca, what are your thoughts?
I'm entirely in agreement and would only add to that, particularly in this area where we have distances specified in law, that we are ensuring our authorizations comply with. It is all the more important for our maps and the record that goes before the public to be crystal clear. And I don't think that these illustrations got to that point for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm in agreement with my colleagues.
Wonderful. Do we have a motion?
I move that we grant Fort Bend County's motion to overturn the executive director's issuance of air quality standard permit registration number 174419 to Jewel Pit Incorporated and remand the application of the executive director to review the 440-yard setback requirement, review the legal name of the applicant, and provide additional opportunity for public comment.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 2, please.
Thanks, and I'll give everybody some time to move and get up to the table. Item number 2 is the consideration of an application by Douglas T. Harrison for new TIPD's permit number WQ 00162110001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
Before us, we have an application for a new TIPD's permit that would discharge up to 600,000 gallons per day of treated domestic wastewater in the final phase. For these types of applications, the commission considers a 2-step analysis to first determine whether a hearing requestor is an affected person, and second, whether an affected person raised issues in their hearing requests that are referable to SOA. The commission received timely hearing requests from numerous individuals in 3 groups, specifically Dry Comel Creek Neighbors, Preserve Our Hill Country Environmental Foundation, and the Greater Edwards Aquifer Authority. I'll begin with my thoughts on effectiveness. Basically, which individuals and groups, in my view, are entitled to a contested case hearing at SOA. To be considered an affected person, the requester must first explain how they will be affected by the application in a way that is not common to members of the general public. The hearing requester must also file timely comments in a hearing request that identify both their personal interests and concerns that they have. Finally, the identified concerns must be within the commission's jurisdiction to address in the authorization. For groups and associations, there are additional requirements for the commission to review. Most relevant to today's analysis, to be entitled to a hearing, a group or association must identify a group member that would have standing to request a hearing in their own right. Looking at the group hearing requestors first, I agree with the ED and OPIC that Dry Comel Creek Neighbors hearing requests should be granted. The group filed several timely comments and hearing requests, which identify Austin Falk, Deborah Williams Bell, and Aaron Bell Altman as members, and I believe that each of these individuals would have standing to request a hearing in their own right. The group also meets the other requirements for a hearing. The interests of the group has identified are relevant to the group's mission, and their claims do not require the participation of their members to pursue. Therefore, I recommend granting Dry Comel Creek's Neighbors hearing request. I do not believe that Preserve Our Hill Country Environment Foundation and Greater Edwards Aquifer Authority have met the associational standing requirements for effectiveness, as both these groups failed to identify a member who would otherwise have standing to request a hearing in their own right. Turning to the individual hearing requestors in this matter, I agree with the ED and OPIC that we should grant the hearing requests of Aaron Bell Altman, Austin Fott, Kyra Fott, Pretense Otis Hibbler, and Deborah Williams Bell. Taking into consideration that this proposed TIPD's permit has a final daily average flow of 600,000 gallons per day, the issues that these individuals raised in their hearing requests and their proximity to the proposed discharge point and discharge route, I believe that they have shown that they may be personally affected by this application in a manner that is not common to the general public. I also recommend that we grant Don Moore Franklin's and Karis Olson's hearing requests. These hearing requesters use the Altman's property to board horses, and they also regularly use the property to ride horses. Based on the size of the discharge and the discharge route running through the Altman's property, both Ms. Olson and Dr. Franklin concerns regarding their health and safety and the health and safety of their horses rise to the level of personal justiciable interest. I would recommend that we deny the remaining hearing requests, given that they either did not file timely comments or did not identify a personal interest in their hearing request that would sufficiently differentiate them from the general public. I'll stop here. to see where we land on effectiveness. Commissioner Janeca, then Commissioner Gonzalez. What are your thoughts?
I'm entirely with you. An analysis as to affected parties.
I'm also in agreement.
Well, let's move to the second part of our analysis. Affected persons raised relevant and material issues concerning water quality, odor, compliance with siting requirements, whether the siting requirements, whether the application is complete and accurate, compliance history of the applicant and operator, and whether the proposed facility would be protected from inundation if it's located within a floodplain. These issues are within our jurisdiction and to consider in this matter, and I would recommend sending these 6 issues to SOA. I would also recommend denying all the requests for reconsideration. I do not believe that they raise new relevant and material information for the commission to consider. Finally, I would recommend a 180-day hearing duration. Colleagues, what are your thoughts?
I'm in agreement.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we grant the hearing requests of Dry Comal Creek neighbors, Aaron Bell Altman, Austin Fott, Kira Fott, Prentice Otis Hibbler, Deborah Williams Bell, Don Moore Fratkin, and Karis Olson. And apologies if I slaughtered any of those names. That we deny all remaining hearing requests and requests for reconsideration. That we refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues. Whether the draft permit is protective of water quality, including the protection of existing uses of the receiving waters, livestock, and wildlife in accordance with applicable regulations, including the Texas Surface Water Quality Standards. Whether the draft permit adequately addresses nuisance odor in accordance with 30 TAC 309.13E. Whether the draft permit complies with siting requirements in accordance with 30 TAC 309.12. Whether the application is complete and accurate. Whether the applicant or operator's compliance history raises any issues regarding the applicant or operator's ability to comply with the material terms of the permit that warrant denying or altering the terms of the draft permit, and whether the proposed facility is located within a floodplain would be adequately protected from inundation as required by 30 TAC 309.13A. And I would set a maximum hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until the proposal for decision is issued.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, please.
Item number 3 is the consideration of an application by Caprock Precast LLC for issuance of air quality standard permit for concrete batch plant registration number 175658. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
Colleagues, as you are aware, the Health and Safety Code Section 382.058C mandates that only persons who reside in a permanent residence within 440 yards of the proposed plant may request a hearing as a person who may be affected. In this matter, none of the requesters have demonstrated that they live within 440 yards of the proposed concrete batch plant. Kurt and Amber Warford live over 1,600 yards from the proposed plant, and Mayor Owen did not provide a residential mailing address in her hearing request to demonstrate that she lives within the 440 yards of the proposed plant. So based on the Texas Health and Safety Code Section 382.058C, I believe we are compelled to deny the hearing requests as a matter of law and issue the permit. I would propose that we deny the hearing requests, issue the registration, and adopt the ED's response to comments. Colleagues, what are your thoughts?
I'm in agreement.
Also in agreement.
Do you have a motion?
I move we deny all hearing requests, issue air quality standard permit for concrete batch plant registration number 175658 to Caprock Precast LLC as recommended by the executive director, and adopt the executive director's response to comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. Item number 4, please.
Item number 4 is the consideration of a petition by Lakshmi Land Group LLC for the creation of Lakshmi Municipal Utility District Number 1. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions.
Colleagues, this municipal utility district is proposed to be located entirely within Williamson County. Williamson County is the sole hearing requester in this item, and their request raised relevant concerns connected to its statutory authority in this matter. Therefore, I agree with ED and OPIC's recommendations that Williamson County is an affected person and that this matter be referred to SOA. I would also recommend that this matter be referred to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently within the SOA scheduling process. Colleagues, what are your thoughts?
I concur.
I agree.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we grant the hearing request of Williamson County, refer the matter to SOA for a contested case hearing on the petition, and refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with SOA's scheduling process.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. Item 5, please.
Item 5 is the consideration of the adoption of the renewal with amendments of Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System General Permit Number TXG 500000. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Excuse me, will you make sure your green light's on? So on the microphone. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director's Water Quality Division, I'm Monica Alba Garcia, and with me today is also Rebecca Villalba of the Water Quality Division and Michael Parr from the Environmental Law Division, who is joining us virtually. Staff requests adoption of the renewal with amendment of TIFD's General Permit Number TXG 500,000, which authorizes the discharge of processed wastewater, mine dewatering, construction stormwater, stormwater associated with industrial activity, and certain non-stormwater discharges from quarries that are located outside of the 100-year floodplain and greater than 1 mile from a water body within the water quality protection areas of the John Graves Scenic Riverway and Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway. These two scenic riverways have defined water quality protection areas that include, for the John Graves Scenic Riverway, those portions of the Brazos River Basin and its contributing watershed located downstream of the Moore Shepherd Dam on the Possum Kingdom Reservoir in Palo Pinto County and extending to the county line between Parker and Hood counties. And for the Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway, those portions of the South Llano River and its contributing watershed in Kimball County located upstream of the river's confluence with the North Llano River at the City of Junction. To provide notification to existing permittees of the administrative continuance of the existing general permit, which expired on March 29, 2024, the TCEQ published a notice of intent to reissue the general permit in the Texas Register on December 29, 2023. Notice to the public of the proposed renewal of the general permit was published in the Texas Register and Houston Chronicle on August 9, 2024, in the Weatherford Democrat on August 10, 2024, and in the Junction Eagle on August 14, 2024. The public comment period ended on September 13, 2024, without any comments received. Staff recommends adoption of this general permit and requests permission to make non-substantive revisions to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Has anyone signed up on this item?
No one has signed in to speak on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Garcia and Ms. Villalba. Thank you, OPIC. As ED staff have noted, this renewal involves the implementation of HD 1688 from the 2023 legislative session. We're already back in session already. It's bananas. Adding the Coke Stevenson Riverway to the protections of the general permit The proposal outlines the expansion in detail, and I see that the EPA has weighed in with no objections. I appreciate the stakeholder inclusion and involvement in this matter. I've also noticed that no comments were received during this public comment period. Based on my review, I support moving forward with the adoption. Colleagues, what are your thoughts?
I'm willing to wade in a little as well. I would wonder, do you want to pause and hear from OPIC as well?
OPIC?
Hi, good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and the Executive Directors, attorneys, and staff. For the record, I'm Sheldon Wayne on behalf of the Office of Public Interest Counsel. Our office has reviewed this project, and we support the renewal with amendment of the Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System General Permit TXG 500000. The adoption of this general permit is necessary to reauthorize the expired general permit and implement HB 1688. Which expands the pilot program to now include the Coke-Stevenson Scenic Riverway located in the Colorado River Basin. We further note that this non-rule project was published in the Texas Register and multiple newspapers, and no public comments were received by the Commission. Additionally, the EPA has reviewed the draft permit and stated its consent to permit issuance. As such, OPIC supports adoption. Thank you, and I'm certainly available for any questions.
Thank you, and I promise I will not forget y'all next time. Commissioner Gonzalez, any comments, thoughts? No.
I will only add on, and thank you so much for your comments as well, Chairwoman. And hearing from OPIC, I'm in agreement there. I appreciate the direction from the legislature on this to move forward and apply the protections that stakeholders have seen work well on the John Gray Scenic Waterway to other parts of our state, even add the permit immediate need. So I'm glad to see our agency moving into that space to stand ready for it.
And if anyone cares about Texas history, and we all do, Coke-Stevenson was a governor of Texas in World War II, I believe. So interesting. Do I have a motion?
I move we adopt the renewal with amendments to Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System General Permit Number TXG 500000.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. And I'm sorry, OPIC. Items 6 through 35?
That's correct. And give everyone a chance to get up there and I'll officially call it. So items 6 through 35 are our enforcement docket, and the executive director of staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Michael Parrish of the Enforcement Division, and with me today are Amy Sedemeier and Melissa Cordell, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 6 through 35. The total assessed administrative penalties are $970,424, with $176,305 deferred, $157,432 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $636,687 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have anyone signed up on these items?
So for items 6, 7, 8, 16, and 17, we have individuals who are signed in and available for questions, but nobody is asked to address the commission. So if you don't have questions on that, we can move to OPIC.
We can move to OPIC, please.
Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Garrett Arthur, TCEQ Public Interest Counsel. OPIC has reviewed each of these enforcement items, and we support adoption of all the orders presented by ED staff.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, OPIC. Thank you for the summary from both the ED and OPIC. I've reviewed these items and prepared to move forward on all of them. Colleagues?
Likewise.
In agreement, yes.
Do you have a motion?
I move that we adopt items 6 through 35 as recommended today by the executive director.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Thank you. Item 36, please. Thank y'all very much.
Okay, and we'll allow the ED staff a second to get up here for 36. And then I'll call the caption. Item 36 is the consideration of the adoption of amended sections 30 amended sections to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 350 regarding the Texas Risk Reduction Program. And the Executive Director staff is here to present this matter.
Good morning, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I am Scott Sedemeyer with the Remediation Division. With me virtually is Caroline Catchings with the Environmental Law Division. This adopted rulemaking amends Chapter 350, Texas Risk Reduction Program, Section 350.76, to update the chemical-specific approaches used for developing and demonstrating attainment of the critical human health protective concentration levels for dioxins, furans, and dioxin-like polychlorinated biphenyls. The proposed rules were published in the August 30th, 2024 issue of the Texas Register. A public hearing was held on September 30th, 2024. The public comment period closed on October 1st, 2024. The rule team did not receive comments during the public comment period. In conclusion, staff respectfully recommends adoption of this rulemaking to Chapter 350. Additionally, staff requests authorization to make non-substantive revisions necessary to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Ms. Smith, has anyone signed in for this item?
No, no one has signed in for this one.
We hear from OPIC.
Thank you, Chairwoman, Commissioners, General Counsel, ED staff. We have reviewed the rule package, and we support adoption. The adopted rules would update outdated chemical-specific approaches used for developing and demonstrating attainment of the critical human health protective concentrations for dioxin furans and PCBs. This change would only affect a small number of sites, so any additional time and resource expenditure from regulated entities or the Superfund program would be minimal. Additionally, the adopted rules would be more protective of human health and would allow the ED the flexibility to adapt these rules into the future, the levels. The public involvement plan and alternative language requirements were properly met. A public hearing was held on September 30th, 2024, and no public comments were received. We believe these amendments are well drafted to bring certain outdated PCLs in line with current science, while also allowing those levels to remain flexible as the science continues to change. We appreciate the staff's hard work on these amendments, and we support adoption. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. I've reviewed this rule package. I see that we have no comments from the public and no changes since proposal. I'm prepared to move forward and adopt this new rule. Colleagues?
I agree. I'm also ready to move forward today. I appreciate staff's hard work on it and acknowledge that it strikes a deliberate balance in managing emerging science and the appropriate legal authority to make those changes when needed. Thank you.
Well said.
I don't have anything additional to add.
Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt the amended sections of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 350, as recommended by the Executive Director.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank y'all very much. Item 37, please.
Yes, item 37 is our public comment session. The commission will receive comments from the public on any matters within the jurisdiction of the TCEQ in accordance with Texas Water Code Section 5.112, except the commission may not hear on pending permitting matters or other contested cases such as enforcement concerns, enforcement matters, or specific enforcement matters. These are subject to an ex parte prohibition in the Texas Government Code. In the interest of time, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, with the total time for public comment limited to 1 hour. Please note that the commission's discussion of subjects for which public notice has not been given are limited to statements of specific factual responses and recitation of existing policy. And with that, I'll begin with our the first person on my list. It's Margaret Duran, and I believe she's joining us virtually.
Margaret, are you there?
And since we're not hearing her, shall I go? We can circle back.
Let's circle
She's
back.
on later. So we will next go to Errol Summerlin, who is also virtual.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Can you turn your camera on?
He may just be on the phone.
Okay.
Yep.
Actually, I'm not just on the phone. I didn't know that we were allowed to use cameras. But
I don't think we can give everybody a camera.
We are fine without your camera. Excuse me.
Right. All right. Well, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Errol Summerlin. I'm a co-founder of CAPE, the Coastal Alliance to Protect Our Environment. Madam Chair, I found it most difficult to decide what I wanted to say today, what I wanted to concentrate on at your first meeting. There's so much you need to know from the public's perspective. Members of CAPE have been making regular comments to this commission since June of 2024, and I encourage you to take a few minutes to listen to those comments. CAPE is an alliance of individuals, grassroots organizations, and NGOs that was created because the Coastal Bend region has been targeted as fertile ground for industrial build-out, and the danger of this expansion to our environment and the public health consequences of this unfettered development are not receiving the attention it deserves. We ask that you listen to us. Don't dismiss us as an anti-industry rabble-rousers. We're school teachers and professors, engineers, roughnecks, retired oil and gas executives. We're geologists and former urban planners. We're retirees and young professionals. We have a lot to offer as you take the helm of this agency. But we're tired of constant flaring. We're tired of watching our neighbors struggle with the health consequences of hazardous air pollutants. We're tired of seeing our water supply depleted for this industrial growth. And we're tired of hearing that the only solution is desalination that will discharge significant amounts of brine into the bay system, threatening aquatic life and economies that rely on a healthy bay system. We go through the procedural steps thinking that if we have our opportunity to present to independent judges, we'll either stop the onslaught or at a minimum get better controls to safeguard our air and water, only to find that the commission ignores the decisions of those judges, and you do so more often in permitting in the Coastal Bend. When you send a case to SOA, the judges hear all the expert testimony and from all parties. Thousands of pages and multiple exhibits are in the record. In every instance where the PFD recommended denial of a permit to a heavy industry, the commission dismissed the recommendation and granted the permit, or the commission altered the PFD's findings of fact or conclusions of law and granted the permit. And when the judges only decide that an applicant should employ the best available control technology to get a better handle on these emissions, the commission doesn't care if it's available, but rather insists that it must be shown that some industry somewhere actually employs the technology and that it works. But no one does it because the TCEQ won't require it. You've referred cases to SOA this morning. Don't summarily dismiss their recommendations. Don't be industry's champion. I'm not asking you to be our champion. Just listen to us all and consider all sides before acting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Let's circle back to Margaret.
Sure. Margaret Duran. The chief clerk is telling me that she's not signed in. They don't see her
She
on
is
the
not signed
webinar.
in. Do we have anyone else who wishes to
We do.
address the board?
Also virtually Kathy Fulton.
Ms. Fulton?
I'm hearing she's not currently on to.
Just go down the
Okay, I
list.
think, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Oh, she is on. Okay.
It's Ms. Fulton? Ms. Fulton?
Yes, hello,
Can you-
I'm sorry.
Ms. Fulton, can you state your name and affiliation for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Kathy Fulton. I live in Port Aransas, Texas. I'm a member of several area groups, including Port Aransas Conservancy. Number one, I would like to welcome the new chairwoman. Was very pleased with your remarks at the beginning. And I don't really have anything prepared other than to say, just like Errol Summerlin said, we started getting much more concerned about, number one, lack of public participation and comment at TCEQ commission meetings. And then, so we decided we needed to start trying to get other people more involved to hear what's really going on so that they can understand this process. And I do want to say, just like Errol was saying about when it comes to hearings and referring stuff to the State Office of Administrative Hearings, many times that we've discovered there's a number of things that get thrown or where the judges make a ruling basically to deny an application or make recommendations that changes be done to that application before it's approved, and it gets it just gets decided that no, the judge has got that law wrong, or that law, this batch thing doesn't apply, batch issue doesn't apply here. And then these various things get approved. Now, the only reason I'm raising this is, or one of the reasons I want to say something is because having gone through 2 contested case hearings, not a lot of fun. And I was pro se representative for it during one of the contested case hearings here for Port Aransas for a group of people and other people were represented by the Conservancy. It's grueling. Y'all have to know this. It's grueling. And when they come back and say, don't do it, when the judges say that, and then it gets essentially rejected by this panel, I just hope and pray more consideration will be given, because those judges are the ones that hear the full story and y'all just get the summary. And I look forward to your participation in this as a new chairwoman, and good luck with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Bobby Levinsky in person. Mr. Levinsky, you can use the podium over there. No worries.
Apologies.
No.
Thank you. Bobby Levinsky, I'm an attorney with the Save Our Springs Alliance. We understand that the recommendations from TCEQ will be to recommend that Travis County receive an attainment status for fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, based on the new 9.0 micrograms per cubic meter standard. This recommendation is despite 2 air quality monitors within the county showing unsafe air quality levels in exceedance of the 9.0 threshold. Both monitors are part of the EPA approved state monitoring plan and have demonstrated consistent exceedances of 9.0 or more. The exclusion of data from these monitors would not be reflective of local air quality or truly healthy air. The Weberville Road location with the site ID number of 484530021 has recorded exceedances of the 9.0 threshold since 2012, more than a decade of data. We have submitted comments to address the proposed exclusions from that monitor, but I think the larger concern is the North I-35 monitor, site ID 484-531-068 has recorded exceedance of 9.0 since it was installed in 2017. This monitor has been excluded entirely. We understand that part of the justification for excluding the North I-35 monitor is that the segment is currently under construction. However, construction for that segment only began in 2023. While it is feasible that the current unsafe levels with a mean measurement of 10.4 is partially influenced by the construction, this explanation does not explain the data of the exceedances that preceded the construction of the highway itself, or the current project. The baseline level prior to construction was already higher than 9.0. It does not consider that construction, particularly on I-35, is somewhat of a constant here. That meme that's on the internet of be like I-35 and always improve yourself kind of comes to mind. Construction is part of our DNA here on 435. With the upcoming central expansion, we know that construction will be our reality for at least the next decade. So unsafe air conditions will be our reality. I'll end by echoing a request that you received from the Travis County Commissioners Court, requesting that additional air quality monitors be placed throughout our region. This would be helpful in noting anomalies as well as providing better background data so that policy leaders can adjust as necessary to improve air quality and overall human health. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cyrus Reed.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Cyrus Reed, Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club. First comment is welcome. And I very much appreciated your comments that you're going to focus on your kids and mine and everyone's kids. I'm not sure my kids always deserve it, but I appreciate your support. I do want to address the same issue that was addressed by the last speaker, and that's PM 2.5. I know you're an incredibly smart woman, but I also know this is a new job. So just background, EPA made the standard more rigorous because of the elderly, children, people with underlying conditions. It was shown that particulate matter of 2.5 microns or less was affecting their health. Therefore, we have a new standard. Therefore, the TCEQ is charged with making a recommendation to the governor, who's ultimately your boss, and like sort of all of our bosses, right, on which areas should be declared non-attainment. You guys have already opened up a public comment period, an initial public comment period. There is now an additional comment period on the issue of exceptional events. In other words, should we declare that some areas that do have high levels of PM 2.5 only have those high levels because of so-called exceptional events, be it wildfires in Mexico, be it sub-Saharan dust coming from Africa, be it other issues that are outside kind of the normal things that happen. There's a comment period that runs, I believe, through tomorrow. The Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club with many other organizations will be submitting comments, and we're going to argue that TCEQ is wrong. TCEQ in its draft has suggested that even though there are somewhere around 12 areas that have high levels of PM 2.5, you guys are suggesting that only 4 meet the burden or should be considered non-attainment. We disagree with that analysis for several reasons. And that will be, I'm not going to go through all those reasons, that will be in our comments. One of those issues is the issue mentioned by the previous speaker, which is we shouldn't be knocking out monitors that are in your air monitoring plan. Honestly, as he said, we need more monitors. We shouldn't knock out the ones we have. And that's an issue for Travis County. And I do serve on an advisory committee as part of CAPCOG on air quality. And I know CAPCOG itself believes we have high PM 2.5 levels, and therefore we are non-attainment and should take appropriate action. That's Travis County. We also disagree. There are a number of counties along the border that do have high PM 2.5 readings. Some of that is influenced from pollution from Mexico, including wildfires. We do disagree with whether wildfires are considered exceptional events or not. That'll be in our testimony. And then we have a general
That's
concern.
time.
Okay, general concern with the data itself. So look forward to working with you. Read our comments tomorrow and we'll talk further. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate it.
And finally, Annie Spade.
Good morning. My name is Annie Spade, and I'm a fourth-generation native Texan living at 13508 Trail Driver in northern Hays County for the past 30 years. I very much welcome you, Chairwoman Pope. My heart has been lifted by what I've heard this morning. As Commissioners Janeka and Gonzalez know, I am a former Montessori preschool teacher and school director. In my retirement, I have been enrolled in a training focused on bioregional organization. Working within a bioregion enables citizens and even industry and governments to respond to challenges of humanity's increasing needs and the reality of finite resources in a local and sustainable way. This can only happen if we begin actually to revitalize our lands, air, and waters, all of which are finite. If we will do so, we can save our children and our grandchildren from looming hardships, which is why I so value the work of this commission. I am here today seeking your partnership, and I have a few specific invitations to extend to you. Especially as you convene with a new chair, please have a look at the past final decisions made by the commission, referenced by Errol Summerlin and Kathy Fulton this morning, that were in opposition to the Council of OPIC and even the determination of administrative law judges. When public concerns are lawfully legitimated going forward, we need you to protect the land, water, and air that we all depend on. Related to this request, and I've spoken about this here before, I ask you to take a long view as you consider proposals. My 5 young granddaughters and many of the young children I worked with will live to see the 22nd century here in Texas, and we all hope for them to thrive, but they must have clean air, land, and water to do so. And finally, if you have not seen the PBS documentary Chasing the Tide, it's a real treat. Jay and Chrissy Kleberg walked the 370 miles of the Texas coast. And as they say in the film, Texas is not a state with a coast, it is a coastal state. All our waters flow to the Gulf, and its marshes, beaches, and waters have provided well for us. Yet nowhere are Texas land, water, and air more threatened. I beg you to proceed with caution there and require all the monitoring you can to help protect this precious and vulnerable resource. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Do we have anyone else signed up for public comment?
That completes the list that I have.
Move on to items 38 through 41.
Yes.
We will meet in closed session today.
We will meet in closed session in room 246 of the Workforce Commission. Would you like to meet in 5 minutes?
We will meet in, let's say 10 minutes.
Okay.
You will meet at
10:50.
10:50 a.m. This meeting stands in recess. Thank you.
The commission met in room 246 of the Texas Workforce Commission from 10:50 a.m. until 11:39 a.m. on item numbers 38 through 41, as posted in notice pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551074. No action was taken. This agenda stands adjourned, and the time is 11:43.